would like to start with the Dvar Torah, to continue with this first Rashi, and it connects to this session in the Knesset. Well, as you said, Rabbi, the first Rashi on Parashat Bereshit, Rashi asks why the Torah starts with Bereshit, and then it explains. Then Rashi explained that this is to tell us that why Bereshit and not HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. So if Umot HaOlam, the non-Jews, will come and say, Listim atem, you're just a bunch of robbers, and you took away land that somebody else stood there, was there, Shivat HaAmamim, the Prizi, the Keini, and so on, Yevusi, and so on, and tells you Listim atem, you tell them, the land belongs to God, Birtzoto netana lahem, when God wanted, he gave it to them, and Birtzoto netala mehem netana lanu, and when he wished the other way around, he took it away from them and gave it to us, period. That's the answer. So the country belongs to us. The land of Israel belongs to us because God gave it to us, period. That's it. So this is what Rashi says. And this is the answer we like to give. However, let me ask you a question. What for? Why couldn't God give us the land of Israel the way he gave it, the way he gave England to the British people? You know, clean and white sheet. Why to erase what's written and then give you the paper? Why to give it to somebody else and then start from Bereshit so you'll have an answer? Just give us a land with no people over there. A good question, no? Well, I'm going to give you my answer now. Okay, it's only I'm not responsible. I didn't see it anywhere. But I think the answer is that we should read the Rashi a little bit different. It's not that if they'll ask, you'll have the answer. It was done in that way so they will ask. And so you'll have the answer. Because when you're coming to the land of Israel and you tell those who sits over there, it's time to leave, and they ask you why, and you say, because God said so, this is Kiddush Hashem. Basically, you're saying, I am on a shlichut over here. I'm a shaliach of God. I'm fulfilling my mission. Now notice something very interesting. Something very, very interesting. The border of 1948, 1949, basically there's no questions on these borders, right? There is an agreement between everybody in Israel that we're not giving back Tel Aviv. And we're not giving back Nahariya, for example. Even though Nahariya was captured during the independent war and was outside of the borders of what was supposed to be Israel at the beginning. The only question is what we took in 1967. How come? In 1948, those chalutzim, ultra-secular palmachnikim, okay, came and threw away 600,000 Arabs. And there's no question. There's no question. It's legitimate. In 1967, Daniela Weiss came, okay, and all the good settlers came, and were very, very, very careful not to move any Arab from his home. And it's not legitimate. How come? You know why? Because of that reason. Because the Palmachnik, and excuse me for saying so, the Schmutznik, okay, who did not believe in God at all, but took the land as it is really his, with no questions, radiate a message. You see, the goy, when he sees the Jew, he doesn't care if he has a yarmulke or doesn't have a yarmulke. They know exactly who we represent. That we are the people of God. Banim atem la'Hashem Elokechem. We are the sons of God. And when we come with full confidence and say, now it's our turn, this is Kiddush Hashem. But when we come with our tzitzis and with our yarmulkes and being very careful not to touch nobody, you staying where you are, we don't, and so on. This is not the Kiddush Hashem we're supposed to do. So the Palmachnik in 48 fulfill the mitzvah of Yeshuv Haaretz better than the Gush Emunim guys during the 70s and the 80s, unfortunately. So this is a little bit fulfillment of my shtickle Dvar Torah on the first Rashi. However, we are in an evening of memorial of Jabotinsky, and I want to tell you something. I got the pamphlet, the advertisement for that evening on my smartphone, sitting in the Knesset. When was that? I was sitting in the Knesset during the voting on the budget. And that took a whole night, because you're voting on thousands of different parts of the budget. And it was not an easy night for me, because I was voting against the budget. It's not easy to vote against your friends, against your party, against your prime minister, against your coalition while you're in. It's not easy to be how is this book called? Lonely wolf, right? It's not easy to be like that. Ze'ev boded. Jabotinsky boded kaze. It's not easy. And suddenly I got it. And I said to, who was it next to me? Chaver HaKnesset David Rotem, who sits right near me. I said, look what I just got. It seems like on Tuesday, I'm going to be in New York and talk about Jabotinsky. And I tell him that between votes, and he has a loud voice. He said, yeah, and what are you going to tell about Jabotinsky? And remember, everybody's watching me voting against. So I told him, אני הולך להגיד ששקט הוא רפש. I'm going to say, now how do you translate that? Silent is dirt. Did I translate it right? This is a famous quote from Jabotinsky. If you being silent, you don't open your mouth because everybody's quiet. When you know the truth, then silent is like sewage. Refesh is kind of it's like sewage. Sheket hu refesh. So it's a famous quote from Jabotinsky. And suddenly I felt that all the Likudniks around me feel very uncomfortable with what's going on. Because what happened? I was planning to vote in favor of the budget. But just a few days before, our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu brought to the government this decision to release 104 heavy murderers. And I announced that if that happens, I'm going to vote against the budget. And I was hoping that there will be more Knesset members that will join forces with me. And I actually called all the right-wingers in Likud, all of them, and spoke to some of the more right-wingers in Beit HaYehudi, and told them, look, this is the time we should, that's the challenge now. We can stop it. Unfortunately, none of them joined, none of them really believed in or realized that sheket hu refesh, and they all voted in favor of, and they did not join forces. One of the Knesset members, I will not tell you the name, that I did not turn to from Likud, because obviously he's not on the right side, was a bit surprised and asked me, why are you voting against the budget? So I told him, because just yesterday the Prime Minister decided to release 104 murderers. So he said, ah. And I told him, if there would have been another 4 guys like me, if Netanyahu would have known that there are going to be 5 guys from Likud that will do the same thing that I'm doing now, would he bring that vote to the government, this decision to the government? He said, definitely not. And therefore, I told him, it's not Netanyahu's problem, it's your problem. It's our responsibility. However, that did not work this time. But I believe that when whatever good thing you do, good thing you say, principle you stand for, you set a new border closer to the target you're trying to achieve. Hopefully next time, and there will be unfortunately next time, because we are in a bad process now. There'll be more Knesset members that will join forces because of that beginning that only I did this time. And if there is something, really something to learn from Jabotinsky, is this ability to stick to your principles, is this ability to go by yourself against the stream. Another Knesset member is, by the way, not from Likud, told me, why you always go against the stream? אתה הולך תמיד נגד הזרם. I told him, because this is the difference between, how do you know that fish is alive? The fish is alive. You know the answer, because you swim against the stream. So this is what we should learn from Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky had this historical way of thinking, and he knew what's going to happen in Europe, and he knew what needs to be done, and he had the courage to talk about it openly and to do what needs to be done in those days, even though everybody was against him. And because of these efforts, even though he did not see it by himself, but if there is somebody that's responsible to the fact that the British mandate, the British left the country at the end, is Jabotinsky. That the Etzel and the Lechi were created above because of his efforts and his ideology. You don't always see the fruit of your work, but it's there. It is there. And in many ways, I feel that I'm going in the footsteps, the big footsteps of this incredible man, Ze'ev Jabotinsky, and trying to feel these big footsteps with another dimension, a dimension that was a bit missing in his philosophy, the dimension of faith, of Jewish faith. Even though Jabotinsky started to speak about it at the end of his life, but feel it completely, this is what needs to be done today. I just want to finish before I'll take some questions with the last thing I want to talk about is this Jewish leadership. Look, we all understand that the direction Netanyahu is taking right now is very dangerous, and it is the wrong direction. We all understand that release those murderers is terrible. Just 2 days after, there was a session in the Knesset about anti-Semitism rising in the world. And everybody came, ministers came, Knesset members came, Sharansky came. Everybody was there because there's a problem. There's a real problem in Europe, also other places. And when my turn to speak came, I said, what do you want from the world? If the French government would release this terrorist from Toulouse, what would we say about French? We would say it's anti-Semite government, right? Well, we just decided to release hundreds of murderers like that. So what do you want from the world? So obviously, we all understand it's terrible. We know how it's going to end. And we're right. However, I was not surprised. I was not surprised because Netanyahu told us the truth. He did not tell us, like Sharon, din Netzarim kedin Tel Aviv. I'm not going to leave Netzarim. For me, Netzarim is just like Tel Aviv. He did not say that. He said, he's saying to us almost 2 years already, two-state solution. He shows us the direction he's going, very, very simple and clear. And if tomorrow there is an election in Israel, and you have the right to vote, who are you going to vote for? Sheli Yachimowicz? Tzipi Livni? So why should Netanyahu even count you all if there is no alternative? That's the only language you understand. By the way, Jabotinsky spoke about that as well. We can krechts and kvetch from here till next year. It has no meaning. Doesn't bother Netanyahu for a split second, because he got your votes, right? He has no doubt that you're going to vote for him. So he doesn't count you. It's very simple. This is politics. This is how it works. You really want to stop those processes from going? Create an alternative. That's why I'm here. It is very, very simple. Very, very simple. Nothing simpler than that. You can explain from here till next year how wrong it is to give away the land of Israel. From all the good and true reasons. You can show maps, you can explain numbers and quantities and strategic. And you can even come and talk about Rashi and our right to the land. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm here. Until this alternative will be realistic and win and run the show, nothing is going to change. When it start aiming, when it start looking like it can be, you'll see change everywhere. Because everyone, including Netanyahu, will want your votes. Then your votes is not in his pocket anymore. That's the way it works. Very, very, very simple. So start taking yourself seriously and understand that if you want to stop this process, horrible, terrible process, there's only one way to do it, and it is to create an alternative. And we can do it if we'll start believing in ourselves. You see, when Rabin shook the hand of Arafat, Yimach Shimo, and then Netanyahu hugged him with both hands. That was 20 years ago. What is the message that a 10-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid at the time gets from it? Here comes a person who is the head of the organization that brought up to liberate the land of Israel from the Jews, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Liberate the whole country from the Jews. Get a full legitimacy and recognition from those who supposed to be exiled from that land. Until that time, no Israeli leader, left and right, Golda or Begin, or anyone else, agreed to recognize that organization. And because of that, the Americans did not either. He could not come to the UN. He could not come to New York. And 20 years later, today, these 10 years old kid or 10, 15 years old kid are the main structure of the Israeli society, the 35-year-old people, between 35 and 45, people that don't remember anymore what was before Oslo. And these are the main part of the Israeli society. And they feel and they live in the conscience of what I call orchim, toda'ah shel orchim, meaning visitors. They don't belong to the country, they're just visitors. The owners are the Arabs. We have a very deep problem now because of that process that started in Oslo. We always stick to the wrong reasons. It's not because he was a terrorist or not terrorist, nice guy, bad guy. It is the deep meaning of that handshake and the impact it has 20 years after. This lack of historical understanding that Zev Jabotinsky had, and Yitzhak Rabin, and unfortunately Benjamin Netanyahu lost. And this can only be fixed by a new kind of leadership that comes from a point that kula sheli, exactly as Jabotinsky said, comes from a point of shtei gadot layarden. Yes, not being afraid to say the truth. It all belongs to me. You can go into my videos, my YouTube channel, and see that I'm saying that in the Knesset. Exactly those words. Not willing to give you one grain. Kula sheli. And I have to, and when I'm talking about kula sheli, I cannot not speak about the heart of the land. The reason why we came back to the land of Israel, which is Har HaBayit and Beit HaMikdash. And because Har HaBayit and Beit HaMikdash combine all the foundations, physical and spiritual, together for the reason we came back to the land of Israel. To build a palace to the Creator here on this earth. To rebuild ourselves as a nation with a message, with a light to the entire world. And the whole world is waiting for that message, for this moral message, to this Cheirut message, liberty, message of liberty to the entire world. And if we don't fulfill that message, fulfill our duty, then we lose our right to the land. You see, it's not only because of our past that the land belongs to us. More than that, it's because of our future that the land belongs to us. And our future depends on that point, the Temple Mount. And through that point, we can find that agreement. Those who really look through and through what's going on knows that the Temple Mount is on the table. That's why I'm not allowed now to go there. You wanna make sure that agreement don't go through. Make sure that Har HaBayit remains in our hand. If we win on Har HaBayit, there's no agreement, there's nothing. If we lose it all. This is the heart. This is the heart of the nation, the heart of the body. Thank you.